Good evening, fellow commissioners and the general public. My name is Michael Champness. I'm the chair of the Transportation Advisory Commission. Before we begin, please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the county website and on YouTube. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by new state legislation and FOIA, the Transportation Advisory Commission needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's cumbersome, so I ask you in advance for your patience. First, because each member of the commission is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all of the other members. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. I will ask each commission member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating when I mention your name. So at large, Linda Sperling. Okay. Braddock District, Kevin Morse.
Present in Burke.
Okay. I am here from the Drainesville District. Franconia District, Matt Beachak.
Yes, I'm here in Alexandria.
Fantastic. Welcome, Matt. Hunter Mill District, Felicia Woods.
Yes, I'm present in Herndon.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Mason District, Roger Hoskin.
I'm present in Falls Church. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
At the tip of the ice cream cone.
There we go. Mount Vernon District is vacant. Providence District, Jeremy Hancock.
Hi, Jeremy Hancock, and I'm in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Man who's never quite at home, but always participating. Fantastic, Jeremy. Glad you could join us. Springfield District, Eric Thiel.
Here in lovely Fairfax Station.
Okay, fantastic. Sully District, David Skiles. Okay, and Fairfax Area Disability Services Board, Christy Garten. Okay, Christy's not with us at the moment. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We do have a quorum of 7 members, so we can participate and go and take action tonight. So at this point, I will pass the virtual gavel, excuse me, to Secretary Hoskin, so that I may be heard to make the requisite motions. To you, Roger.
Let's see if I can find it here.
Page 2.
Okay.
Right after the roll call.
Okay, this is minutes. Oh, I guess I don't have it here. Oh, determine.
You want Kevin to pick up?
Yeah, because I know Calvin sent me this agenda, but I can't open it.
Okay. All right.
All I get is a machine core dump.
All right.
So
Okay.
I've tried to pull up an old one, but I apparently don't have it here. So.
Okay.
Matt,
Kevin, are you prepared perhaps to pick up? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I accept the virtual gavel. I now recognize Commissioner Champus.
Thank you very much. I move that we have determined that each member's voice can be adequately heard by each other member of the commission. It is so moved.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's seconded by Commissioner Hoskins. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, please say nay, or any abstentions. Abstentions, thank you. Mr. Chairman, the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. I next move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this commission to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. I further move that this commission may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated audio conferencing line, and that the public may access this meeting by the Microsoft Teams outline platform or by calling 1-571-429-5982 and entering the phone conference ID 710-688-9449. £944. The phone number for ADA is 711. Access information is also available on the TAC website. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by,
Mr. Sale?
okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or any abstentions? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you again. Finally, I move that all of the matters on this agenda previously furnished and posted on the TAC website are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government and/or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of the Commission's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hoskins. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will now start the tax business per the approved agenda. So I don't have any remarks to start the meeting. I will note that and we'll talk about this later in the agenda, that the Board of Supervisors recently took action to sunset the COVID meeting procedures effective March the 1st of next month. So looks like we'll be getting back together in person going forward. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Would very much like to welcome our guests here, and we'll have allow you to introduce yourselves as we get a little bit closer. Are there any members of the public here or other members of boards and commissions? We actually had some last month. So anybody here who's not a member of the TAC or one of our guests who are making a presentation or from FCDOT this evening? Okay.
Hi, sorry, this is Martha Quill from Fairfax County DOT, the Chief of Special Projects Division.
Yes, Martha, good to see you. Absolutely.
Well,
Okay. Okay. I will now move on to the acceptance of the previous meeting's minutes. Calvin did send out some meeting minutes. I did moments before the meeting started, had a couple edits to the meeting minutes. Calvin, I know you had some as well too. So what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to approve the minutes since we do have a quorum, and then we can discuss them as we go forward. So is there anyone, I'd welcome a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January.
So moved with the chairman's edit.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric there. There's a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the meeting minutes as presented by Calvin with the edits that I provided. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing none, I would like to all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes as discussed, as modified with my slight comments, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Okay, the ayes have it unanimously. The meeting minutes are approved. Okay, fantastic. The administrative activities out of the way. We are now only 1 minute behind schedule, so it's not too bad. I very much want to welcome our colleagues and friends from VDOT this evening. I will ask you to introduce yourselves just so I make sure that we know who you are, where you're coming from. I don't have a full list right here. I want to make sure everybody is introduced. I know there's been a lot of activity recently. Many of us have had a chance to drive on 66. Wow, it's very nice. It's very nice. And we'll get to try it out. It looks like for good here, for real, as it were, perhaps with our next meeting, which could be next month. So we'll get to see how it works at about 5:36, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. So that'll be a good test there. But we're eager to hear how things are going. I know as commissioners had some questions there, but a huge accomplishment. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come on in. And Martha, really appreciate you joining us this evening too, to be part of the conversation. So with that, I guess Susan, perhaps I see your screen's on, so I'm going to call on you first and ask you please to introduce folks. And again, thank you so much for coming today.
Sure. Thanks for having us. So, we're planning to kind of review our mega projects program, which is focused on our Express Lanes regional network tonight. So myself, I'm Susan Shaw with our VDOT Mega Projects Office here in Northern Virginia. Also tonight, I have Michelle Holland, who's also with us from VDOT. She's our communications director. And then we also have Shannon Coyne, who assists us with our communications and outreach. And I think that's it from our team. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Have you met Martha before? I would think. I'm not sure. How could you not? Okay, how could you not?
I've been to many meetings with Martha.
How could you not? How could you not?
They're tired of Martha, in fact.
No,
I think.
Martha's
But
great.
we aren't. So okay, I had to make sure that the appropriate introductions were made. Although I knew what the answer was. So thank you. Well, Susan, appreciate it very much.
Sure. And I don't know, so I think somebody is going to be showing the presentation, the slide deck, correct?
Right. Calvin, you're going to be sharing screen, correct?
I can do that, or you can, or if you want to, you can do that by yourself too, but whatever easy for you.
Okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought that you were, but I'd be,
Okay. I can do that, yeah, yes.
I mean, I'm happy to if that's easiest. What's your preference, Calvin?
I'll do it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you can go ahead and go to the second slide. And if I'm going to kind of give a high level overview, it doesn't matter to me if you want to interrupt me with questions or you want to come back at the end. It may be hard. It's hard sometimes to know how much detail or if it's too much. So I'm trying to give that broad overview.
I appreciate it very much, and we'll let folks ask questions as they go through. So
sure,
appreciate it.
Okay.
Susan, could you just speak up just a little bit more? Maybe, I don't know, the volume's not quite as good on your end.
Okay. So is that better? Is that
A little bit, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I got my volume on max, so doing what I can do. It's doing good.
So we have a 90-mile express lane network that's planned for Northern Virginia. And we have, with 66 opening, we now have 81 miles in service. So that's 66 outside the Beltway. We have 95 and 395, and then 66 inside the Beltway. So 3 different toll operators on those 3 different systems that are currently functioning today. Of course, VDOT owns and runs the inside the Beltway, and then we have Transurban that operates 95, 395, and now we have the 66 Express Mobility Partners who are operating outside the Beltway. So in addition to those 81 miles, we have another 13 miles that are under construction. And that's 95, down on 95 in Fredericksburg, that's being extended farther to the south. On 495 up towards the American Legion Bridge, we're doing the northern extension, which is a short extension, but a really critical link in our roadway network. And then we have a project to add some access on the existing 95 system there at Opitz Boulevard. In addition, we have a couple of things that are under study right now. One is the South Side Express lanes on 495, and that's that east-west length across our bottom part of the Beltway from the Springfield interchange as you go into Maryland there at the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. That's under an environmental study right now. And then we have a very preliminary feasibility work that's happening on looking at how to make 95 bi-directional. It's in the very, very early stages. I think there have been some comments out there, by the governor and the secretary that we are in the very early stages of that. And then, as I mentioned, the 3 different toll operators. You can
Susan,
go-
very, very fast, sorry, the bi-directional study, is that all of 95 from the Beltway down, or where are you looking at that?
I mean, we're mainly looking at the top portion of it, somewhere in the vicinity of Garrisonville North. I mean, that's part of what is under discussion, and up to, towards the Springfield interchange. It's going to be key because we are just looking at pieces of it, not the entire length, making sure those transitions will work from an operations standpoint. And, because that is a currently operated facility, we'll be working with Transurban, who owns and operates that existing system.
Very interesting, but yeah, don't want to
Yeah.
distract, so thank you.
Yeah. So moving to, so I wanted to talk a little bit about 66 outside the Beltway. We're still, basking in the glory, I guess, of our finish. We think it's a good project, and it's nice to see it open and being used. We are continuing to work out there, though. So just a reminder, $2.3 billion, 22.5-mile project, finished on time. A little bit early, in fact. And then, we're providing other improvements in that quarter because we have the concession fee monies that went to $500 million of other projects in the quarter. We began back in November of 2017. It's 2 express lanes in each direction, along with 3 general purpose lanes. One of the things that we did in this quarter, especially from the Beltway out to the Centerville area, is we built bridges and left space in the middle for future transit, which in Fairfax County is planned to be at some point extension of Metro's system. And then 2 park and ride lots that we have out on the western end of the project, along with 11 miles of bike trail parallel to 66. In addition, improved pedestrian facilities on all the new bridges that were constructed. So that is a public-private partnership, as I mentioned, 66 Express Mobility Partners, which they will run through 2066. We are still doing construction out there. We didn't quite get all the paving done before the winter temperatures came in. So we've got some short pieces of mainline paving, but also around some of the ramps, some paving still to be done, some bridge work. We're still working at Nutley Street. So a number of things that are still underway. On the next slide, we just kind of summarized some of the major things, which is the Gallows Road Bridge. I think, did we skip over some? Oh, sorry. I skipped over. So how the 66 express lanes work, sorry. They are variable toll rates, just like our other express lane systems. So adjusting volumes and speeds to keep the lanes free flowing. That has not been too much of an issue yet because they're still in what we call that ramp up phase as traffic gets used to using the system. There are tolling segments on 66 outside the Beltway, 3 tolling segments eastbound and 4 westbound. And what that means is that when you get on in Gainesville and say you're heading east, you won't be able to see the end-to-end price if you're going to go the entire 22-mile corridor. You will only see for that first segment. And then when you get to the next segment, you'll see another price, which will add with the price you already paid. And that's similar to 95, where these express lane systems are much longer. We can't predict what congestion and pricing will be at the end of the quarter. So we're just giving advanced pricing for that segment that you're just entering. So you can, go on multiple segments as you travel. Similar to our other systems, HOV3 is free with an Easy Pass Flex in the HOV mode. One thing that's different in this quarter is there are various categories of vehicles, and so I'll talk about that in a little bit. You can see on the right-hand side what the signs look like, and so they're a little bit different than what you say on the 95 corridor, but you'll have a toll rate sign that might have 3 destinations on it and just 1 price. And that price is the same no matter which destination you end up at. So you can see an example there of, if you get on and you've got Monument, Stringfellow, and 20. This would be if you're heading in that westbound direction. It's that same price for all three of those destinations. And then you can see another example where you've got two different prices that are shown. So just depending on the where you get on and looking at those price signs, we do get a lot of questions on that, or we have initially. In terms
Susan,
of the,
can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, this is Eric. So I'll apologize for my video. I do telecom meetings at work, but this is the only one I do at home, so I'm holding my iPad. So yeah, I don't do this a lot at home. The question I have is, if I'm an individual citizen and I'm interested in estimating my pricing, is there going to be something where I can go online and say, oh, look, here's the historic data, say for a typical Wednesday, going this far versus these times? Because I would think that that should be public information. And similarly, average speeds versus time, the usual stuff that the system is recording automatically, continuously. Is there any reason why is it planned to be available? And if not, is there an explicit reason why not, or we just haven't thought of it yet?
I may have to get back to you on that. I know they do have the Plan a Trip feature on their website. And I have not been on it recently, but I know they were, planning to have that feature on the website. So, Michelle, let's take that back and we can respond.
I am, and I'm looking on the site too, so,
Okay.
but I'm making note of it.
Okay, thanks.
And I will say, just, with initially, when they first start the system, of course, there's no data to rely on. So they basically have, a general idea for what their schedule of pricing will be. And then they kind of have to get that feedback loop going of the we're talking about to help inform their system and fine tune it. So they're still really in the early stages of that process.
Susan, I've got a couple, and I think you probably saw these. I mean, I'm getting them from Supervisor Harity's newsletter, which was a couple of months ago, actually. These questions came up, and it's one of the reasons I thought it'd be a good topic tonight. But one of the things he had said was that the exit ramps to the general purpose lanes are not well marked before you commit to additional tolls. Had you seen that query before?
No. So they're just saying that we should have it better marked where you can exit if you don't want to going.
Yeah, before you commit to the.
I mean, we are, taking a look as people are getting used to using the lanes. We know there's some clarity we can add to the system, and so we'll look at that. There are also some other dynamic message signs that are still in process of putting those up, and so we're continuing as they're wrapping up construction to look at where we need to clarify some of the information, and so I'll certainly take that back. Yeah.
And when you said earlier that I think basically the reason you couldn't show the tolling from one end to the other was just too extensive. Do you show as much in length for tolling as you do on 495? I mean, so if you get on the Beltway at Springfield, you can see you have the price all the way to Dulles, to the exit, right? Is that equivalent to what you can show on?
So The 495 system is one segment. There are not any segments on 495. And when you think about it, there aren't any like ways to get from the express lanes to the general purpose lanes, except at interchanges. So nothing in between. Whereas for 66, you do have those opportunities. It's very similar to 95. Express lanes, which are a longer system. I think the Beltway is about 14 miles. So it is just all one segment. It just with different exit points along the way. 95 has very similar. I think it's 3 tolling segments in one direction, 4 in the other. You can't see end-to-end pricing when you get on down at Garrisonville. You can't see what the price will be for your entire trip to Springfield if you take it the whole way.
Okay. And then on the web, if you go in, which I haven't done, if you go in and look this up on it, and this may have been Eric's question as well, but if not historical prices, do they give you any idea of what the travel cost might be from the point A to point A, B out to point B outside the Beltway on 66?
Michelle, are you able to look at that or no? You're muted.
I'm on their website now and I'm looking for that. I know that they're planning to post historical pricing information to where you can see what prices have been to start to get a feel for the patterns during certain times of day and days of week. And they're also working on a mobile app, but none of that has been rolled out yet.
Okay. And then Susan, just to back up a second on the I-95 bi-directional, just to clarify, it's bi-directional right now, right? From the 14th Street Bridge to south of the Beltway?
Say that again. I'm sorry. The bi-directional
On 95, from 395 beginning at the 14th Street Bridge, it's bi-directional to wherever the toll lanes end south of the Beltway now, right? On 95? It's, in other words, it's one way, in the morning, and you reverse it for the afternoon.
Right. And so when I say bi-directional, we're trying to make it concurrently 2 ways on the express lanes.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand. So no reversible lanes is what you would be looking at.
Essentially, but again, we're trying to see how much space there is, what that could look like, to try to get a feel for what needs to be done there. But yes, where you would be running the express lanes in 2 directions at the same time.
And you think that inside the Beltway on 395, that's technically feasible?
No, we are not looking at all on 395. It's only south of the Springfield interchange towards, the south, maybe as far south as Garrisonville, although that might be a little far. Won't be any farther than that with this initial study that we're doing.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, and so when you think about it, we've got a ramp that can be used, like in some places, a ramp that goes one direction in the AM and then it reverses in the PM. And so in some of those locations, it means you're going to have to build a whole new ramp because you can't use it. You need to make it so that it can go both ways. And then looking at that inside piece, how much space do we need? So, it's really very early just to see, is it feasible? We know we have traffic congestion in the reverse direction. So if the express lanes are running in the south direction, northbound in the evening, it's congested. So we know we have the need for it. The question is, do we have the room and space?
When do you think that study would be complete?
The feasibility portion, we're just very early in it. And so, it would be looking at one, is it feasible from a traffic safety operational standpoint? And in particular, can we, once you if you're looking at adding capacity in one stretch, you've got to look at how does all of that, merge back into the existing system. And then we would also need to look and see if it is feasible, what type of other studies do we need to do? Environmental studies, so we're really just very early looking at that.
5 years away, maybe. Even thinking.
I don't want to say a time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So,
Susan, I have a question, a
Sure.
quick one here. And it says on the sign, higher tolls for larger vehicles. Is that a distinction between automobiles and trucks? Or do you make a distinction between GMC Yukons and Toyota Priuses, or different size trucks by gross weight? Or how many different vehicle classes are there? Or motorcycles for that matter?
so I'm going to defer that to another slide where we actually have some
Okay.
information on that, but we do have that covered. And it is very unique. And so I think it's important that we cover that because it's
Okay.
new on 66 outside the Beltway, and it's not something that's in our other systems.
Yeah, looking forward.
Okay, so let's go on to,
I'm sorry, can I ask something really quick? I'm sorry.
Sure.
You
No,
you
that's fine.
mentioned the updated cycling and pedestrian improvements. Is there also updated or upgraded commuter bus service that is a part of this project? I think you mentioned commuter lots possibly running from the commuter lots into the city.
Yes, and so for 66 outside the Beltway, we have the new commuter lots, and then we also provided funds through the project for transit operations and for the purchase of buses. And so those are all starting up. We've got new bus service that Prince William County is running out of the Ballsford Road lot. They also started a new bus service earlier in the project out from the university lot. And then, there's other I believe Fairfax County also, the connector bus starting, and they also are working on a garage that will open at the end of this year. Is that right, Martha?
Yeah, I think it's yes, towards the end of this year. And I was going to say, yeah, for the Fairfax connector, actually just started a new service 660 coming out of Stringfellow that takes you into DC, I believe. And the idea is we have right now the commuter lots at the government center. A lot of those routes, already are starting to utilize the 66 express lanes. They will shift to the new transit hub that is being constructed at Monument Drive.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate it. Yeah, sorry for all the interruptions, and obviously keen
That's
questions. Commissioners got questions to ask me, please. Let's try and let her go through because we're on trade. I think we're on chart 5 here, so we got a ways to go. So appreciate it. Keen interest.
All right. It doesn't bother me at all. So
Okay, no worries then. Okay.
Okay, so on construction on 66, just some of the major activities that are still underway. We have on the right, you see the Gallows Road Bridge. That picture was from December of this year. So we are still working on completing that bridge that you can see. This is looking south towards the Mosaic District. So, wrapping up that work there by Stenwood Elementary School and the metro station there. And then in the lower, the other photo to the left of that is the Nutley Street interchange where we're reconfiguring that interchange with 2 roundabouts on either end with 2 loops in the opposing quadrants there. And we're looking to shift that traffic towards the end of this month. And then the shared use path we talked about along 66, that is still not open. We are actually doing some punch list work and final inspections and hoping to have that open this spring. So still some activities there.
I have to ask you about Gallows Road quickly, of a completion date, because my wife drives Gallows every day to Tyson's, and she's not been a happy camper with that road.
Well, our project completion date is set for August 1st of year. So, so far that's what we're on track for. There are some, technical things that we're working through with the beams at that bridge. So we're, it's hard to say exactly, when it's going to complete, but August 1 is the contract completion date. So hopefully by then for sure.
Did you anticipate, learning curve with the roundabouts at Nutley?
Yes, yes. I think it, it's a unique interchange design. I think it will take a little bit of time for people to get used to it.
Okay.
So the next slide, just a reminder, our trails that's along 66. And like I said, here you can see they're doing some final inspection, making sure everything's in good order before we open those. Likely they will be opened in segments as we get those completed, but we're still kind of working through the details of that.
Eric, at great risk, do you have a question?
No, sorry, I probably had the hand up accidentally.
Hand still up. Okay, sounds good. Just wanted to be sure.
So this next slide is just kind of covering really all of our express lanes, and we are Easy Pass Flex on all of our system, and so you can see the three systems in the chart there about how you can, who's the operator, how to get a hold of them, whether they have a mobile app or not, what are the payment options. So there is some differences among each of those, but I think the thing that does tie all of them together is the Easy Pass, and especially the Easy Pass Flex for when you are riding toll free. Motorcycles ride toll free on all of our facilities.
And if you don't use the flex within a year, are you still subject to losing it, or?
I'm not, I know we did have that for a while there where you had to pay like a $10 fee or
$10 fee.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, $10 fee.
It was like a one-time $10 fee. Is that still in effect though, Michelle? I'm not
Yes,
sure.
I believe so.
Okay.
Is that something that they would charge you for it if you hadn't used it in a while, or to show up on your bill, or they sort of cancel your Easy Pass?
I think you get a notice and then they say, hey, you haven't used this in the HOV mode for a year, and you could pay the additional $10. But and it was just a one-time $10. After that, then you're good for the rest of the time. That you do it. So
Okay.
But I'm not sure that was still in place. There is a new, the Easy Pass on the bottom, that is the new model now that they have, which is a little smaller.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nice. And it is easy to turn one in. They'll send you a new one with an envelope for you to just mail the old one back. So you can do it all online. It's pretty easy. And one thing too, just to note, is that Easy Pass Virginia is different than Easy Pass other states. And so you can have an Easy Pass from another state if you want to, but you can also, the information we're giving you here is for easypassva.com.
Good to know.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So this was what the question about the various vehicle classifications for 66 outside the Beltway. And so the thing that distinguishes the vehicles is the size and shape of the vehicle. So it's really the height and the length of the vehicle. And that's measured on the roadside with equipment that they have out there, and they classify it based on that. So you can see, I know this is pretty small, but you can go online to see. The idea is just that there are various classes of vehicles, and each class has its own multiplier. The multiplier is higher during peak periods because during peak periods, we're trying to preserve the space in the express lanes for the HOV vehicles. And so we made those multipliers, they were required to be much higher. The other thing to note about their system is if vehicles are taller than 7 feet or longer than 18 feet, they are not HOV eligible, generally speaking. Now, if they're a public transportation, vehicle like a bus or a van pool, that they are eligible. And so, if you have one of those types of vehicles, you may have to contact them initially. I mean, buses, they can see, what those are. But these are public buses that would be HOV eligible. And then the peak hour factors vary, like I said, depending on what time of day you're traveling in. Is that clear for, what their intent is on the vehicles there?
Is enforcement still on the HOV by I guess the state trooper is alerted when it's in flex mode, but he still has to make the visual ID or?
So there are a couple of ways that is enforced. So one is certainly that, like you said, just the visual, and they do have state troopers out there on their road just for general enforcement, including HOV enforcement, but they also are able to identify how many people are in the vehicle through photos that they take on the roadside. And so it's not a violation like a fine, but you do get notified that you had your transponder in HOV mode, but you didn't appear to have the right number of people in the car. You do get a couple of warnings before you actually would see a toll price hit. But eventually, after a couple of warnings, you will be billed for the toll, along with the administrative fees that go with that.
Hey, there's probably an easy way to make that totally automatic. So a slightly uprated version of the laser radar scanners on the autonomous car nav, they can look in through tinted windows. They'd have to be totally mirrored to block it. And they do a full 3-dimensional scan, and computers are extraordinarily good at recognizing 3-dimensional scans as opposed to 2D pictures. And so it'd be a very easy automatable thing to use laser radar to look into cars and count how many people are in it.
I mean, right now, this is, kind of I guess, the state of the industry. I'm sure that it may change some, but Transurban is using the same system on their facilities, and VDOT is looking to implement something very similar on 66 inside the Beltway as well.
Your
And
penalties.
really, it's
your
just,
penalties, I'm sorry, your penalties got much more lenient when in the old days, if you added the 2 blow-up dowels in the back seat, it was a pretty heavy fine if you got caught. But now you're only issuing warnings. It's very lenient.
I think it's a little bit different because these are now, if the police actually pull you over, then you are talking about, getting a ticket. This roadside equipment that they're using is really just to assess the toll. That's really what they're doing, and just making sure that the people that are using the road that should be paying the toll are paying the toll. Because, that just, if you have a lot of people in there that are not HOV3, they're just driving up the price for everybody else.
Sure.
So they want the system to be fair for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
So that was 66 outside the Beltway and how they class vehicles. On 66 inside the Beltway, of course, there's no trucks allowed in that system anyways. No trucks with more than 2 axles, but all the vehicles that go in there are HOV eligible, as long as you have the Easy Pass Flex, and there's no difference among what type of vehicle you have, whether you what the toll is. It's all the same. So that is for inside the Beltway, and again, just tolling peak hours, peak direction on that facility. And you can see the website there for that information. And then lastly, the 95, 495, 395 express lanes. Those toll prices do vary by the size of vehicles. And so this is something that was just implemented here towards the end of last year, where vehicles taller than 7 feet are paying a toll rate that is higher than all the other vehicles. So they're paying 3 times the toll rate of vehicles that are shorter than 7 feet. They're not making any distinguishment between, any vehicles that's in there is HOV eligible and can use the Easy Pass Flex. And those systems don't allow trucks with more than 2 axles. So again, a little bit different rules, for that system. All right. So back to some projects. This is the, go ahead.
I was gonna say, before you move on to the next project, I did verify that on the Express Mobility Partners 66 website, they do have estimated toll prices based on you planning your trip. It is not currently, I'm not getting the pricing function working tonight for some reason. So that's an issue I can follow up on tomorrow. But if you go to their website, ride66express.com, and then you go to the plan your trip function, you can actually on a map put in your origin and destination, and then an estimated toll price will come up. And I believe they're basing that estimation on historical pricing. So that function is available on the website. It's not fully working at the moment, but we'll follow up on that and get back with you.
If you were, say, planning your trip from the Springfield entrance on 495 to a destination outside on 66, would it cover both tolls or just the 66 portion?
This is only for 66 outside the Beltway.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Before we get off 66, a quick question on signage, and if you all aren't the right person, feel free to pass me along, but I continue to hear concerns. I'm in the Providence district and community on the signage from when you're going from 495 north towards Tyson's onto 66, and which 66 exit folks are supposed to take. It seems like I've driven it. It seems like it's more than just like a getting used to a change. That signage seems very strange, and I continue just to hear concerns from the community about what that looks like and what exit folks are supposed to change. And so I just wanted to just kind of flag it for you all.
Yeah, and we agree with your assessment and what you're hearing from people. We actually have a kind of gathered a group of people to look at that issue in particular. We think it is probably one of the most complex signing interchanges in the country because you have, 3 different systems there. You've got 495 express, 495 general purpose lane, 66 inside the Beltway, which is a part-time tolling only in the peak direction, and then 66 outside. And so there's so many different ways you can connect and choices to make. And so we've actually got an independent expert that came in kind of cold to kind of look at it from the outside looking in, but who has kind of expertise in driver behavior, decision-making, that type of thing, and looking at it really from the driver's view. So we agree with you. We're looking at ways to enhance it. It's one thing to look at the sign plans, on a set of plan sheets and say, okay, this is MUTCD compliant and all of that. It's another thing to drive it and actually make decisions. And so we are looking at what we can do to enhance it, but we agree with what you're hearing out there.
Okay, great. Glad to hear it.
I've got to jump on that. He touched a nerve, and Michelle may remember that we spoke as soon as they opened the new ramp from I-495 north to I-66 east. Completely counterintuitive. Normally it would be the first ramp. And I just wanted to ask you historically, Susan, when that was planned, did that thought ever come up as how counterintuitive that is? And I regretfully made the mistake and, had to go to Nutley Street in rush hour to turn around and get on I-66 East.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it's a very constrained area. We were trying to limit height, limit footprint, all of those things. And so it was kind of trying to make something fit within all of that, infrastructure. I mean, I also didn't mention in the middle of the whole interchange, Metro runs through it. So there's also that. So we're trying to snake our way in and around Metro. So there's some places where the order of those signs needs to flip. We're also looking at some things like, can we do some innovative pavement markings with trailblazing? We've done that some on 95. So we're looking at that. But yes, it is counterintuitive because, you take the first exit to go left and the second one to go right. So,
Yeah, and previously it wasn't that way. I mean,
right.
you changed it that way, but the markings to be like the emblems you have on Keene Mill Road and
Yeah, something like that to just kind of help people confirm, okay, yeah, this is where I want to be.
if you just quickly, if you could make a note, a personal favor, Braddock Road, eastbound to 495. I have asked, lobby, prayed for the emblem markings. You get the traffic. They did change the signs. They're lined up a little better. But traffic going east on Braddock, it gets in the northbound ramp for 490. I mean the southbound ramp for 495,
Yeah.
and then they swerve out.
Are you following? The VDOT has a project that we're implementing kind of for Fairfax County on Braddock Road, and there are some changes in and around that interchange.
I chaired the commission from the task force from hell for that project. I was going to ask you later, take a look at it if you can. It's I don't know if my grandkids are going to see the end of that project.
Yeah,
it's dying.
I thought the phase 1 was funded, and they're hoping to have a public hearing in the spring. It is a VDOT now managed project, but I hear there's some controversy around it. So
it has not gone well. The first virtual meeting was a disaster. There's kind of quickly 3 areas of contention right now that are standing out. People are coming in late on tree loss, somewhat unjustifiably, but I think they've asked VDOT to get specifics on that. The inability to line up Wakefield with the Danbury Forest, that's very unpopular, as well as the R cuts. And then at Kings Park Drive, the 2 churches, Parkwood and Holy Spirit, that's another area. But if you could look at those, either combination of either the emblems at the interchange or the barriers to keep that traffic from swerving in, it's just a nightmare. And they tell me, oh, the emblems are too expensive and they don't want to do it, but I think it would make a huge difference.
all right, I will check and see. No promises, but I'll
There we go.
Thank you, and sorry to the commissioners for my digression to Braddock Road, but I had to get that in.
All right. So let's move on to just. Okay, so this is the Opitz project where you can see that bridge across 95. Today, there is no access there to the express lanes. And so this was a Transurban-led project, what we call a concessionaire enhancement, where they are funding this project to add that ramp to and from the south. They'll also be providing a sidewalk along the north side of Opitz Bridge, where there really is no pedestrian path on there today. And then there's an existing slip ramp that's on 95 that needs to be adjusted a little bit. And so that is construction began last summer. It's projected to get completed in 2024. And then the map just shows where that new access points are. But we do think this is right there at the, you kind of get access into the hospital as well as helps with access in and around Potomac Mills. So we think this will be a well-used access point. Okay, and then 495 express lanes north are extensions to the north. This is on the next slide, Calvin. So this is about $660 million project, 2.5 mile extension of the express lanes between roughly the Dulles Toll Road north to around the George Washington Memorial Parkway. It is a public-private partnership between VDOT and Transurban that's already, underway on 495, and that does run through 2087. We're looking at a number of project benefits, improving interchanges, replacing all the existing bridges. We are adding bike and pedestrian trails both on the bridges crossing, but also along the Beltway. Providing stormwater management facilities, looking at replacing existing walls and some new walls where needed, and then stream restoration and stabilization in the corridor. The next slide just shows our timeline. We have been at this for a while with an environmental assessment that started back in 2018. You can see where we are today at early 2023. We broke ground for construction in March of 22, but really you'll see a lot more work getting underway this summer. Our planned opening of the express lanes is at the end of 2025, and then the project completion would run through the middle of 2026.
It's such a missed opportunity for our laggards on the other side. Do you think with the new governor in Maryland, are you less optimistic?
I have no comment on Maryland's prospects. I will just say at the project level, we continue to coordinate with the Maryland team. We did work with them to come up with our plans, make sure that they, fit together because their project extends down. They are making connections at the GW Memorial Parkway to and from the north. We're making those connections to and from the south. And so, we needed to make sure that everything fit together seamlessly because, we're looking to solve regional transportation, not just transportation in Virginia or transportation in Maryland. Now, with that said, we did do studies that showed our project does have benefits without Maryland, but of course, we'll have significantly better benefits when capacity is added at the American Legion Bridge.
Do they own the bridge and they would have to take the lead in rebuilding our new bridge?
They own 71% of the bridge. It's based on the, I think that's right. Maybe it's 79%. Anyways, it's the state line is at the southern shore of the Potomac River. And so that's what's divided. I think it's 79-21 is what it is. So 79% of the bridge is Maryland's, 21% is Virginia's. So yes, they generally take the lead on the bridges into Maryland, but we are, glad to support and encourage because we all know, that's really fixing the capacity at the bridge is critical to address the traffic in Virginia.
Indeed.
In terms of our first year construction highlights, which are on the next page, we've actually started with some pier construction. In the middle, we do have traffic, barriers set up on either side. It does make driving in this corridor a little more complicated now just because you don't have shoulders. That's a nice safety feature that we have. And so that's been, pretty much taken away so that we have room to construct and try to minimize our construction footprint. But we are working to, maximize the traffic flow. We're doing overnight lane closures when we need to. And working on those center piers. Then we'll start working on the outside abutments later this summer.
Susan, quick question, if I could, please. Actually, I'm also from the Drainesville district. As I look at the center pier there, it certainly would lead one to believe that perhaps there's another 3 or 4 lanes to be added there. Well, Georgetown Pike is a scenic byway, so what's happening right there at the intersection? Is the road going to be that wide, or is it just being moved over, or what's the plan?
Well, I mean, we have to build the new bridge, completely outside of the footprint of the old one and then tear down the old one. So it's not exactly double that width. But it is getting wider, and I'd have to go back and look at the plans, but we looked at making sure we had turn lanes. We're expanding the pedestrian access there. So I think we have a trail on one side and a sidewalk on the other side. So there's some bridge width associated with those as well.
Well, I know that when the did some expansions of the HOV lanes before, the roads that had previously crossed over the Beltway had to be raised, particularly on Lewinsville Road. This looks like it's going to be at the same height, so obviously, I guess the height here was okay.
Yeah, I don't think we were doing too much with the height, although you can see those beams are falling down. I think must have raised up a little bit, because that pier looks, I mean, if you look where the beams are, they're going to be sitting on that pier.
Yeah.
So I think it maybe is a little bit higher.
Okay.
But mostly what was needed was the width. We needed more length. So that's why all of those need to be reconstructed.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
So just generally, work sequence, we're now starting to work on removing noise walls, clearing that room to widen the beltway. Once we get that work on the outside done, we'll shift traffic, push it to the outside, and then we'll finish working on the inside pieces. So we're just starting some of that work. You can see here an area where we've taken some old sound panels down as we prep to start doing that widening work. And then in terms of the overpasses, which is on the next slide, you can see some of that work in the median. Very, very tight in there for the workers, but we're working on Live Oak Bridge, Georgetown Pike, and Old Dominion Drive. Lewinsville Road overpass, we're doing some work on the overpass itself to kind of reconfigure that section, but we're not completely reconstructing that bridge. And then again, the sequence is to do the piers in the median, then to do the abutments on the outside, and then to complete the new bridges, transfer traffic to those new bridges, and then tear down the old ones. And there will be some additional widening once we tear down the old ones, depending on the bridge. In terms of our the overall project for 495 Next, we do have a transit commitment on that project, and it is for that's on the next slide, Calvin. $2.2 million a year that would go to help support bus service between Montgomery County and Tysons. We had $5.2 million committed for the initial purchase of buses, and Fairfax County is the service provider for that service. They're working on purchasing their buses now to begin operations in 2024. So even while we're still under construction, but to get that service started. In addition to that transit commitment, we do have a transportation management plan where we're doing what we can to maintain mobility during construction, to enhance the worker safety out there, and to provide reliable information for travelers in the corridor. And I will say we have had quite a few hits of our truck mounted attenuators in that corridor. We had one this morning again. It's just very tight in there. People are just not paying attention and driving too fast. So, it's a challenge out there for these workers in this corridor in particular. So some of the elements of our management plan are to support the new bus routes, support new carpools and van pools. We also look at local network operations and see if there's anything that we can do if we see a problem out there. We also support additional state police out on the corridor, just to try to keep, enforcement out there, as well as making sure that we have adequate safety service patrols out there. Okay, and so that's for 495 next. Another study that we have underway, or that is just in study, is our South Side Express Lane study, and that's basically between the Springfield interchange. It does extend into Maryland to the 295, 210 interchange area, about 11 miles. We are looking at studying extension of the express lane system in there, and looking at what the transportation needs are. We've had some public information meetings last spring. We're looking to have another public, large scale public meetings in sometime this year. And when we've had those, we've had them in, one on kind of the western end of the corridor, one in the Alexandria area, and then one in Maryland, to make sure we're kind of providing opportunity for all of those communities. And I will say for us, we started doing virtual meetings when we were forced to, but that's continued to be an alternative way for people to engage with us. So even though we'll have those, our plan is to have those meetings in person, we still will offer a virtual meeting for people. And we are finding that does seem to be a good way to reach people that don't want to, go out at night and drive, or that their schedules just don't allow. It's another way that they can engage with us. The purpose and need for that study is just, looking at the system continuity, providing the additional travel choices, looking at reducing congestion, improving safety, and then looking at making sure our plans are consistent with local and regional plans. And one thing I forgot to mention on the prior slide, but DRPT, the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, they also are doing a separate transportation and transit demand study in this quarter, and that will help to inform our study as well about, what types of transit work well in the corridor, especially in partnership with the express lanes. In terms of where we are in the study, there's kind of these 5, big steps in the environmental assessment. And so we're currently working on coming up with a range of alternatives. And that's what we would be presenting at the next public information meetings. In terms of the more detailed status, just some of the steps we've been looking at the existing operations, doing a traffic analysis, coming up with some different alternative ideas. The study did begin about a year ago. We've done data collection. We did, as I said, the outreach last spring in May timeframe, and then we're looking to have that update this summer, and then with a public hearing probably early 2024.
Susan, if I could real fast, what's the potential outcomes? I mean, another transurban-ish kind of thing with tolls across in the HOVs along here, or widening, or what kind of options do you think might be considered depending on what the study shows?
I mean, that is what we're looking at, looking at two lanes is what we've ended up in each direction on the 495. In the other parts of 495, we feel like in this corridor, just because of all of the constraints, it's unlikely that we would look at a directional facility like on 95, that it would be from the get-go bi-directional. And that's one of the things I think we've seen in our area too, is where, travel patterns used to be, say, very heavy towards the inner core in the mornings and very heavily, going the other way in the evenings. We've seen that kind of flatten out. I know for the 66 corridor, that split was 65-45, but going to like a 55-45, in the future, that we're seeing, just as much traffic going westbound in the morning practically as we are eastbound, depending on the time of day. So 495 is in that part of the corridor is directional. for sure, but not as strong as say like the 95 corridor where you saw those big splits AM PM. So, you know, that's kind of what we're looking at. We are not talking about doing anything to widen the footprint of the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. So that's a constraint. I mean, there's a lot of constraints in that corridor. And so that's, you know, been really challenging as well. So, you know, we're still in that study phase trying to come up with some innovative concepts, I'll say.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Appreciate it.
I mean, that's really, I think that's my last slide, right? But it's kind of that broad overview of what we're doing. And if you have more questions, glad to take them.
You're not implying that which to me is still a brand new bridge practically, that we didn't build the Woody Wilson Bridge big enough?
No, well, that's what we're saying. We are not going to widen it at all. So that footprint is set. You know, there's some challenges there. I think there were some concerns with the early NEPA decision. You know, the bridge was constructed in a way that you could have rail on it. I think, you know, can you have rail and 2 lanes of express lanes? Probably not. All at the same time. Do you need 2 express lanes? That's what we're looking at, trying to look at how we can, you know, make those connections. I will say the most traversed, you know, piece of the corridor is between Route 1 and 210. I mean, that's where all the heavy traffic volumes are. So that's where you need the capacity. I know there's, you know, a lot of other studies underway. Metro's looking at, you know, how they can address inner core capacity. You know, that's why we also wanted the DRPT folks to look at what are the demands in this corridor. Are we ready for rail? Are we looking at, you know, bus service? And then, you know, we want to look at making sure, because the express lanes actually becomes kind of like a bus, you know, a rapid bus system, so to speak. It's where the buses can travel congestion free. We want to make sure the access points are set up for them to use. So it's not just where, you know, a concessionaire can come in and make revenue. It's also where does it serve the public to have those entry and exit points on an express lane system. And so we're trying to look at all of those needs in the corridor.
I would leave rail aside on the Woodrow Wilson Bridge for now, but in your almost opening comments, you mentioned a rail extension possibility on 66. And I would just, somewhat as a rail skeptic, just say that let's consider your success with the express lanes and bus rapid transit on 66, that maybe a rail extension is not a done deal on I-66, especially with the successes that you've had and are going to have going forward.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think the point is the area is reserved for transit, whatever that looks like. It could be something different. And where we set up those transit hubs at Stringfellow and at Monument, those are future transit hubs for what could be a metro station or whatever it is, you know, in the future. And so I think because of that planning, you know, you have things like density that are set up around those hubs. Regarding land use planning, as well as, you know, you've got the transportation system now in place that can meet those needs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a quibble, but I mean, you know, 10, 20 years ago, everybody said, yeah, rail extension. And I'm saying, no, you know, take a breath, look at how well these public-private partnerships have worked, express lanes. Let's not assume that rail extension is a done deal. We've got, you know, other ways to move people. So, you know, I don't envy your day job there, Susan. I think your budget, the projects you have are probably bigger than several states, everything that you're overseeing. But, and a couple of last points. One, I have your email from many, many years ago. So I'll send you a reminder on the emblem markings there at Braddock. But the last thing I wanted to ask was, with all of this construction and the signage that you have to do, does anybody go out at night to say to picture how the signage will look? And, because that's when it's going to really be the most difficult when you're coming into the new construction areas. And is the signage, does anybody say, yeah, this will work as well at night as it does during the day?
You mean for the temporary during?
Yeah, for every,
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time on 66 West hitting 495 North, I dread it, the way that ramp came up and those Jersey barriers were close in. I mean, God help me if it was raining, I probably would have just missed it altogether.
I mean, we do, have our inspectors and others go out and drive, whenever we have a new travel pattern in the corridor to try to make sure. And we do that, both at night and during the daytime. But I will just say we're always open to, if somebody sees an issue, to let us know. Because sometimes, when you're driving it all the time and you're in the corridor, sometimes it's hard to kind of take that step back and really look at it critically. So.
I have Michelle's number.
Yeah, let me add to that. So I've been in high performance jet aircraft before and done some other things. And let me say that the visual signage on 66 in the construction areas was sufficient to throw me off more than once, particularly since it changed frequently. And I've even had the defensive driving course once or twice way back when. So let me say that what I would do is recommend that someone with a new teenage driver or someone with an elderly driver attempt to drive through there after the signage is up and the construction is new, because it's way too short. It's way too ambiguous. If you were to look at it from a man-machine interface or human factors interface, the guys who, when they spend $100 million on the cockpit of an F-35, those people would just be giggling and laughing at those signage interfaces. Now, you don't have those kind of resources, so I understand it. But, it's kind of like my joke with my wife is that if she's running the navigator, I'll get that warning right as I need to turn, and which would work in a race car, but not in a pickup truck. So I will point out that, I've dealt with stuff that's very similar and trying to deal with people in quick decision-making situations. And some of that signage is just, it's great if you're already an expert and familiar, or if you saw the plans from above, you would go, oh yeah, that sign's good. But if you didn't, and you hadn't gone through it before, yeah, you're going to have a problem.
I like that. Geezer and teenage tested signage. Good suggestion, Eric.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost ready to be the geezer, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I've been for too many years already. So.
Well, certainly can't be the teenager anymore. With that, I do appreciate Susan, Michelle coming here with us. Also, wait a second, Shannon, thanks for joining us as well. Mina, I'm not sure if you're with the VDOT crew, but welcome here as well. We've had a lot of questions. I think it's about time to let our guests escape. But before we do that, I will just, with some trepidation, say, are there any more questions? One more, perhaps, not encouraging, just in case, before we close it out and move on to the next item on the agenda.
I just want to ask, is Martha, I have a Metro Rail issue. I wondered how long she was going to be with us tonight.
I can hang around a little bit more if you have a Metro question.
Okay, maybe after Susan and Michelle go, I can pop that in.
I mean, up to Mike, but yeah, I'll be here.
Well, let's see. We do need to carry on with the agenda, but as we get near the end, and Martha, appreciate whatever willingness you've got to stick around, but also Kevin, unless it's something for the good of the group, which we can certainly bring up later, can certainly ask her directly. So. Okay. All right. Our esteemed colleagues at VDOT, Susan and Michelle, and again, Shannon, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Some incredible accomplishments here. Safety is important. I know it's something obviously VDOT cares about very much. There is. I'm going to riff on Kevin's question about how long it takes to get used to the roundabout. Some of the signage will be better as you get more used to it. But until you are, it's going to be a little harrowing. And actually, I did a drive from 495 north to 66 west, and wasn't sure exactly what lane I was supposed to be in, but I made it. And I'm sure next time I'll do do even better. With that, I think we'll move on to our next item on the agenda. Thank you so very much again for being here, and again, congratulations on some incredible accomplishments. Good work here.
All right.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Kevin, how long do you think your question's going to be, by the way?
Fairly brief.
Okay, go ahead. Then we'll let Martha leave as well.
It's two. I'll make it, but they're very brief. One, the Blue Line Plus. If we're not familiar with that, and we're sitting at the station and you look at the train coming in, it says Blue Line. If you don't know about Blue Line Plus, you get on the train and you're going to Springfield, but you end up in Huntington. That's question one, if that ever came up. And two, this unfortunately came to mind with the fatality there at Dunloring. That same night, I had the train doors close on me when I was boarding. I mean, I may have pushed it a little late trying to move up a rail car, but are they not supposed to pop open when they close on somebody?
Yeah, I'll just give you my quick, I don't know a lot about the Blue Line Plus. I handle more of the Silver Line items,
Right,
but
yeah, I know. But
I can pass it along. I think Brent may be listening in as well. He also helps us a lot with, he's our WMATA liaison. Brent, I don't know if you want to answer that, but on the, I'll say from my part on my understanding of the Dunloring issues that yes, there is technology that is supposed to pop open the doors if something is caught. I mean, that's why one of those, you go on there on commuter times and, someone has something in the way and the doors don't close. My understanding is that it's only objects of a certain size. And in this situation, the size, I think, of the leash, unfortunately, was not one that was detected and not visible to the driver at that time, the conductor of that train at that time. So, Brent, I see you on, so I'll let you handle the other items too.
Yeah, I don't know what they're calling it, but because the yellow line is shut down temporarily, everything that's going south is Blue Line these days. And so maybe that's why they're calling it the Blue Line Plus, because it's serving the yellow line stations all the way to Huntington.
But they need to be something to tell you have to look at the side of the train, not just the front when you come in.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And I can pass along that.
Please.
That concern.
Yeah. And the second issue, I understand about the leash, and I would understand why it would not open, but this thing closed on my body and did not open. I had to pull myself in. And I don't want to raise, but I'm wondering if I should let the safety commission know that, or whether you could just pass that on to Metro. I did bring it up to the I asked for a supervisor when I arrived in Springfield. He said he would speak to the operator about it, but just the mechanism, it did not pop open when it closed on me. So
the only other thing that comes to mind is I just wonder what vintage of the car was this that you were getting on. Some of the older cars, have maintenance issues and may not function properly. But they are supposed to open as you say. So it could be that they had to bring a lot of the 3000 series cars back online because the 7000 series cars were out of commission for a long time. And so maybe that's what it was. I don't know, but
just pass it on.
Sure.
If they want to get hold of me, I have the exact date and everything. I can get back to them on it, but I'll let you pass it on.
And Brent, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, obviously, this is the incident at Dunlorne is going to be investigated, or is currently under investigation. I'm sure it's something that the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission is working through, and I think it'd be interesting also to see their findings in terms of if there are some lapses in the tech different train car series, to see if the situation you mentioned, Kevin, is that again is train car or is there a more prevalent issue that they need to address? So
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Appreciate it very much. Martha, you're welcome to stay with us, but you're also free to go depending on what your preferences are. So appreciate it.
I will head out. Someone have any questions about special projects in Fairfax County, meaning again mega projects like what Susan talked about, or Silverline. So if not, I know a lot of you know contact me too. So
appreciate
Get
it.
you back for the silver line at a later date. Okay.
Okay, we can work on that. All right, thank you guys. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Appreciate it very much.
Michael.
Good evening. Okay. All right. Little behind, but not too bad. Obviously, a big topic. Lots to discuss. Next topic is preparation for the joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors. As you know, we had been planning to have the joint meeting. Originally, we planned to have it late in 2022, probably about December or so. The topic was going to be alternate measures of effectiveness. We obviously did not have the joint meeting in December, nor did we have it in January. I understand, and actually from talking to Rachel, that there is keen interest on the Board of Supervisors in the alternate measures of effectiveness. But one of the things that they're particularly interested in is understanding the effects it might have on the approval process for projects. The board is hopeful that it won't, unduly slow down project review to add these new measures in. So when Greg Steverson briefed us back in December, a week after he briefed the board, the plan at the time was, and it hasn't necessarily changed, but I don't think it's as firm. It is not quite as firm as it as perhaps they originally planned, to have to go talk to individual supervisors about the topic and get some of their views. There are going to be some investigations there. When I say investigations, not like a legal investigations, but looking into the topics there. There are some contractors that Fairfax County has at their disposal to look into some of the alternatives here, and what some of the effects might be of going to alternative measures of effectiveness. So at this point, we are not prepared to reschedule a joint AMO meeting with the Board of Supervisors. Now that could happen within a few months. It could happen perhaps over the summer. Just talking to Rachel, it sounds like it'll take a few months for things to work through a little bit. We'll obviously stay in touch with her there, and if appropriate and need be, have her come back and talk to us if she's available. But the bottom line is, for the joint meeting, it has not been rescheduled, and the topic still needs to be reviewed in light of some of the recent changes here. So I've reached out to Mr. Alcorn. We'll do so again here after the meeting. And so absolutely, it is still an important topic. It is possible that the joint meeting happens later. There's no as long as we're in cooperation with the board to find a mutually agreeable time, which means more them than us, but hopefully mutually agreeable, then we can schedule it, what time makes sense. But also, as we're now into 2023, we're quickly nearing the time by which we give our yearly update and our report of activities. So that gets us so I think that's something that isn't necessarily something we need to have a joint meeting about, because I don't want to turn this into a conversation where, a situation where we are briefing the Board of Supervisors. I want it to be a joint meeting where we are working with them on a topic of mutual interest. whether it's AMOE or something else. So it gives us a bit more time to put some thoughts together there. I'll certainly keep in touch and keep an eye open on what's happening with the alternate measures of effectiveness activities that goes forward. But as of now, we don't have a rescheduled date for us to come back and present to the board. So that's the status for now, and wanted to let folks know.
Thank you. Why am I not surprised, but pleasantly so? So I just always thought that was going to be a tough get. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So, but we will we will revisit the topic, and again we'll see how things progress there. So. What I also, if there are no other questions there, really just sort of a status update for now. We will be talking about the joint meeting, obviously, as we go forward here. But shifting gears to the TAC work plan, the reason is, of course, as I mentioned, it's been a year, almost a year, within 9 days, or actually 7 days of a year, from when we briefed the Board of Supervisors on our 2022 work plan. I think we've done some good things. We, some of the complete streets activities there, some of the active Fairfax activities that we're involved in, and other activities there. So I think we've got some good things to report. But one of the things that we absolutely are going to need to do is look at our work plan and do some reassignment of focus areas for commissioners. I will say, and I see Christy is not with us this evening, but I did talk with her recently, and she did express interest in being one of the 2 commissioners designated to focus on the trails, sidewalks, and bikeways route. So that obviously is they're all important activities. But that's the one where we had a lot of active Fairfax activities last year. Safe streets. Now, admittedly, a lot of things get into a lot of different areas, but a lot of focus areas that we care about are in this mission area. So I would actually like to reach out and talk to some of our new commissioners. Felicia and Matt in particular, and any commissioner one-on-one, who's interested, to talk a bit about some of the things that you're interested in, some of the areas you'd like to focus on, and things like that. But I think now is the time to look at some of those assignments there, and start putting some thoughts together for how we want to proceed in the future. So I know it's a little open-ended, but it is something that we're going to need to do. So. Please be thinking about areas of interest that you're interested in. Now, our veteran commissioners have all assigned focus areas, and so don't necessarily have to switch. Now would be an opportunity should you choose to do so. That's something we're going to need to do. You look like you're going to say something.
You froze up there for a second, but 2 things. One, just I wouldn't get overwrought over the work plan as far as reporting it to the BOS. And maybe this is cynical, but what they meet every other Tuesday. Look at their agendas. I mean, they're they meet all day, and I mean they go on forever. How much time do they have to focus on our work plan? Not to say that it's not important, but I just don't, don't spend any more time on it than you feel you have to. And then secondly, to the new commissioners, I will say that when previous new commissioners came on and focused on areas, that I wasn't really familiar with, I found it really very helpful. So that if there is, an area that you like, don't hesitate, because it's amazing what you can learn at these meetings. And, I think we would all look forward to getting new perspective on a topic.
Absolutely agree with the additional perspectives, but also Kevin, recognize we don't want to sort of over-engineer things. I'll use that phrase. But our presentation last year in front of the board took 5 minutes. That's all it was, and that's all we needed to be able to transmit what we're doing. And I think part of this is a big part of this is showing a level of engagement and having a level of engagement where we can legitimately have substantive conversations with members of the Board of Supervisors. They have a great number of things on their plates, responsible for all number of things in the county. Transportation, of course, is one of them. We're here to help them sort through all those kind of things. And so to be able to do that as a minimum, we need to be informed about what's going on. We need to have been thoughtful about this. We can't just come in and make comments that are not germane or related to things that are taking place. If we're going to advise the Board of Supervisors, we need to take that as a responsibility and organize ourselves accordingly. If we're not, then we can't. And we've talked about this before, and the limiting factor obviously is the individual interest level and time available for each commissioner. So everybody will have to look and decide if there's an area you're particularly interested in, how much time you can spend, respect all of those things. And of course, also, as often said, but it bears repeating with new commissioners here, this is not a corporation. This is a board of independently appointed commissioners, most often by a supervisor, but not in all cases, who are here at the request of at the pleasure of that supervisor, of the group that you work with. And so this is never an attempt to subsume your independence, but it is an attempt to work together so that if one commissioner is particularly focused on one area, the rest of us can be a little less so, confident in the knowledge that if things move, if things are happening, that commissioner or commissioners can bring it back to us and say, hey, something happened and something we care about, time to talk about it. That's a big part of what this is. And if we don't have an information network set up, each meeting is like starting over. It's like 51st dates. We come and we have a meeting, we talk about stuff, and then we leave it and we don't come back. And that's not a recipe for productive advice to the Board of Supervisors, in my view. So, don't want to bemoan it. I'm not asking for volunteers yet, for particular areas. And ultimately, the ability of the TAC to do things is made up of the collective engagement and participation of each of our members, and ask you to do what you can, but respect whatever you can do, and thank you for whatever you can do and however you can participate. So, okay. Unless there's any other comments there, and by the way, meeting laws prevent us from having conversations with 3 or more commissioners outside these meetings, or unless a meeting is called, but any 2 can talk. So contact me, contact your fellow commissioners, Kevin, whoever, and feel free to talk about this kind of stuff. Any 2 can get together and you're fine, and just think about what you like to do. And again, I will be reaching out certainly in this next month for the catch up with folks. Okay. Unless there's anything more on that topic, the next item on the agenda is the public comment period. An opportunity for members of the public to make comments. I don't think, unlike last meeting, which is the first time that I can remember we had guests, I don't believe we have any guests this evening. So anybody that I don't see here, I think I see a meeting guest unnamed. Other than that, Everybody else we know. Is the meeting guest somebody else, or is it somebody from the public who'd like to speak? Okay. Well, if it's a member of the public, they don't want to speak, so that's fine. Okay. Other business and announcements. I alluded to it earlier in the meeting, and we all knew this day would come. And Calvin, thank you very much for sending the information out to the commissioners there. But the Board of Supervisors at a recent meeting, I can't remember exactly which one, voted to cease the pandemic meeting procedures effective March the 1st. So it's February 21, so we're still good now. But from March the 1st on, which includes our next meeting, we are now subject to the new remote meeting rules. So Calvin, the information he described lays out the timing there. I'll admit I don't have it committed in memory, but basically, we have to have at least 1/3 or 2/3. I know that's important, but a certain percentage of our meetings in person. We can have a combination of in person and remote, and we can't have more than 2 remote meetings in a row or something like that. Again, we need to train ourselves up on that. But my thought is that since the rule has changed, and we will be need to get back together in person, my thought is at least the first meeting here of this of our coming back ought to be in person. We can try and look for opportunities to have remote meetings going forward. There are allowances for that. I know it fits a lot of our schedules. We all find it convenient, yes. And so we'd like to do as much of it as we practically can. But my preference is for the next meeting to just make it in person. It's been a while, get together. And part of our topic of conversation can be remote meeting procedures going forward.
Hey, Mike,
Hey,
I feel like we've
yes.
talked about this before.
Jeremy, yes.
The last time we were actually in person, the one meeting.
Yes.
Do we do we determine if guests can still join by phone? Does the room have that capability?
Yes, we will have that capability. We will advertise the phone number so they can call in. They have audio, just call in by phone. And
Okay.
I think that we also have the Teams capability, but I need to double check on that, and that would work for whoever need to remote participation. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And I would imagine the same procedures, maybe not the Teams meeting, although I think it could work for Teams. For our guests is obviously the same meeting, the same procedures we would use for a mix of in-person and remote. We have to have a quorum in person to be able to have some folks there remotely. So we'll need to coordinate who's actually going to be there and make sure we've got a quorum. And so that'll take a little bit more planning. I think we could probably do that. We're going to need to do that. And so, yes, we will want to maybe experiment with this. Kind of like the designated survivor during the State of the Union. A couple commissioners volunteer to be at-home guinea pigs for a combination remote meeting. Those 2 commissioners we could rotate, or something like that. I think those are the sort of things that we want to look at there. So at this point, but this is why I want to. At this point, I wasn't thinking of having a combination of in-person and remote. I was thinking of just having in person for the March meeting. But if the capability does exist, I think also if a commissioner is ill, then you're able to participate remotely. And I don't believe that counts on your quota as to how many remote meetings you can have.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, if you are ill or you're taking care of somebody in your family who is ill or disabled, then it doesn't count for the quorum. Yeah.
Kevin, sir? No.
Yeah, a couple of things. Happy to have you and Calvin work out those details, but one suggestion, I would try and save at least one complete remote meeting for the bad weather months. We have that as an option, even though we didn't have much of a bad weather winter. And secondly, you know, your absolute favorite comment for me about the importance of having a full slate of commissioners, so you have a better chance of a quorum.
Mhm. That is true. That is true.
Yeah, I just, for the record, will second Kevin's comments. I think it's more than just a full slate. It's an active slate that's gonna matter. It's almost, more helpful if commissioners aren't going to participate, that the spot remain open so that we can fulfill our quorum responsibilities.
Yes. Yes. Point taken again. I know that we have one position that is not yet filled, and that is Mount Vernon District. But officially, the other positions are filled. We recognize the attendance is not universal. I'll just leave it at that. So
yeah, and I'll just doubling down on this. I've traveled for work. I've been all over the place. It's we can make make the priority happen. This has been incredibly flexible, and we're getting to the point that it's going to be really important that we have commissioners who are able to make it, or at least let us know early enough that they're not going to make it. So I think we're getting to a breaking point here that we need to try to figure it out.
yeah. Okay. I'll jump ahead a little bit here. For the commission to expel a member takes commission action. We have been more than patient on the attendance issues there. So I think we're to that step. And so if you have a strong view, or any of you, and Jeremy and Kevin, I hear you loud and clear. I believe I hear you loud and clear. But if there's other commissioners that want to speak up now, you're welcome to, or just want to send me a note, you're welcome to. If not, that's okay. But yes, I think the time has come, particularly with the return to in-person meetings, where now we need to be more definitive about who's going to be there, and know that if somebody says they're going to be there, they're going to be there.
So Jeremy, thank you for your support on that. So I wasn't the only one speaking up. And Mike, I would just simply say that if that's the procedure, expulsion, the notice be given to the member, and that it be we vote on it next meeting then. And that he's notified that's on the agenda.
That's what it would take. So, yes.
Yeah, that would be my preference, that we contact them. I don't want to. It shouldn't be a surprise, but at least we make that communication. But it's going to require an in-person attendance if he wants to, continue. So I think that if we can make that notice at this point, then I think we would be in a position to have a discussion at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. This actually leads me a little bit, and we to the agenda for our March meeting. So two things now on the agenda could be discussing our remote procedures and how we're going to manage that ourselves with notification, things like that. And the other would be expulsion, the vote on expulsion.
How do you do both at the same? We have the procedures are in place, aren't they?
No, what I'm envisioning is that the March meeting is going to be in person.
Right, and at that meeting, the commissioner has been notified.
Mhm.
If he's not there, then the motion to expel would take place, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, Calvin, I'll want to, let's huddle up and make sure we understand particular procedures, although they have a fair degree of detail in the bylaws, but we'll also want to feel comfortable there. But my point is that we announce on the agenda, in the agenda, and Calvin, you'll love this, get the agenda out a little bit sooner so that it's been published beforehand. That said, I want to be careful too, because this might be something that we want to go in executive session about.
Absolutely.
I
have a question. Should we notify the supervisor's office before we do take this?
I'm not comfortable having too much detailed conversation here. I mean, yes, we do, but also please be assured that there have been communications previously. But
so would that something that you would initiate, or you want me to contact them, or?
No, let's talk first, because we want to be very careful about this. And this is one of the reasons why I've been reluctant to take the action. One, it's just a shame that we get to this point, and the other is now there's a lot of delicate maneuvering to go through here. But certainly after, with the track record of lack of attendance, then I feel justified in taking the step here. So, but points well taken, and these are exactly why we want to think about it a little bit. But we want to be respectful of the institution and our fellow commissioner. And if we're going to get into details, and I think we do, we probably need to do that in executive session if we next week. So, okay. So Calvin, when we're done here, let's you and I hang around a little bit. As we sometimes do, and let's talk about procedures there at the end of the meeting here.
Yes, sure.
Appreciate it. Okay. But 2 activities does not a meeting make. And at this point, don't have another topic quite as ripe as we just did with the mega projects. So other than the topics that are on the list of possible future agenda items, and with some thought perhaps of trying to pick up some of the topics from the work plan, because part of the idea of the work plan was this is a menu of topic areas to look into. And so I think that worked very well over last summer with our Active Fairfax plan, our efforts of Active Fairfax. But in recent months, we've not referred to it very much, and not that it's a straitjacket, but it certainly is a good tickler of things to look at there. So I'll be looking for other topics, but are there any specific suggestions here? One of the items on the list of possible topics that particularly interested in, or other topics perhaps we want to add to that list for consideration for the meetings.
Would you mind? I couldn't find my agenda. What's on that list for proposed?
Sure. Richmond Highway Speed Safety Study, Northern Virginia Transportation Commission (NVTC) Envision Route 7 BRT project, Tyson's Transportation Management Association strategic planning and other follow-on TDM discussions, update on the Fairfax County Transportation Comprehensive Plan, Discuss Department of Rail and Public Transportation survey on extension of Metro Rail Blue or Yellow Line to Quantico. The Dulles Airport site visit. General update from WMATA. Tour of the VNet Operations Center. That's really, yeah, we talked about maybe a joint meeting with the Planning Commission, but at this point, I think it's a little premature to be putting that for next month.
What was it? Route 7 that you mentioned was one of the early ones that we had.
Northern Virginia Transportation Commission Envision Route 7 BRT project.
I don't think we hit that one in a while, but I'll just throw it out there. But I'd love to hear from Jeremy or others to weigh in. Do I win by acclamation, Route 7? And no, any opinions out there?
Yeah, sounds okay to me.
Yeah, we will need to revisit areas of interest, and that's really what the work plan is. It identifies areas that we that we care about.
I think the Route 7 plan would be a good one. We've been some work done there. There's going to be, that's another one that could get to be about the size of Route 1.
Mhm.
And it probably is going to be even more disruptive. So
Okay. For a variety of reasons, I'm very open to having that project on the agenda for next month if they can be available. Unless there are other suggestions right now, Calvin, can you please reach out to the NVTC folks and see if they could join us at our next meeting? We need to be in person.
Yes, I will check with them.
Appreciate that, sir. Appreciate that. Okay.
Why is it NVTC that's meant? Isn't it? Don't you have to rope in VDOT or FCDOT on that? I thought they just gave them money. I didn't know they'd have the details so much as.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And maybe NVTC might suggest others joining them. But yeah, if all they're doing is saying, "Hey, we wrote a check," that's nice. We'd like to talk to folks who are actually doing something with the check.
Right. Well, I'll leave it to you and Calvin to work that out.
Okay. All right. Not going to. We've been talking. Not going to talk. We've sort of gone over a little bit possible TAC agenda topics, 2023. So would like to move on to the FCDOT monthly update. Tom was able to announce at our December meeting some accomplishments, big projects finished and all that. Calvin, is there anything particular that you and or Brent would like to mention here? An update on projects?
I don't have a particular update.
Okay.
Brent, are we gonna be invited to Tom's farewell?
So, as I understand it, there will be no party, Festivus, any sort of celebration whatsoever. Tom is pretty adamant about that. So I think he just wants to slip out quietly.
Well, I can't blame him. I just remember for his predecessor being in attendance, so I thought I'd ask. But
Yeah.
When is the day?
May 3rd is his final day.
Okay. Well, I guess he'll have to suffer our emails and phone calls with good wishes since then. Do you have anything planned other than retirement, or we won't see his name popping up as the Montgomery County Public Transit Department head or anything?
I don't think so. I don't know. Calvin, have you heard that Tom has any plans?
Go ahead and speculate.
No, I haven't talked to him yet.
Yeah. No idea.
God, just some
But I'm sure
well-deserved
that
rest.
you might find him biking across Iowa or someplace. Yeah. You might find him biking across like Iowa or someplace in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big biker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. There we go.
Iowa.
There we
I
go.
hope he's not in witness protection. I hope he's not heading there.
So, well, appreciate that. And actually, I'll use that as a segue into Chair's report, Commissioner's updates. One thing, picking up on Tom's farewell, and Calvin suggested, I think it's an excellent suggestion, awarding Tom the TAC Lifetime Achievement Award. We've done that a few times for folks that have departed. Leonard was a noteworthy one, but I think that that would be a nice way to honor Tom as he departs. And so, Calvin, is that a plaque, or what does that look like when we bestow a Lifetime Achievement Award?
It is the same plaque with different wording on that.
See.
If you need a motion, consider it moved. If you don't, just go ahead and do it.
It wouldn't hurt to
Second.
Okay. So move by Kevin. Second by Eric. Okay, there's a motion on the floor and seconded to award to Tom Pizzani upon his retirement a TAC Lifetime Achievement Award. Is there any discussion of the motion? Let me make sure we've got enough folks here to vote. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, we still got 6. We're good. 7. Okay, we're good. Sorry. So, is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Fantastic. The motion carries unanimously. So we will make the arrangements to give Tom the Lifetime Achievement Award upon his retirement. All right. Other thing I was going to mention here, and it sort of relates to some discussion we'd had previously about perhaps having a TAC social event. Now that we periodically get together in person, there's a chance perhaps to get together afterwards. We'll be done talking business and could have a drink. And the trouble is that those tend to be later in the evening by the time we're done with our meetings. Did say there's going to look for locations to go. And I think there is a nice place in Mosaic District. But before I mention it, although its name is Park DeVille, it actually seems like a nice location. We'll just mention that it appears there's going to be a transportation event actually on related to alternate measures of effectiveness on St. Patrick's Day. Yes, on Friday, St. Patrick's Day. So instead of just getting together to a drinking celebration, apparently you get together and drink and to have some transportation discussions. Now, concern could be, can commissioners attend? More than 2 attend? Do we have any meeting restrictions there? It is a social event. It is related to transportation, not sure. So I'm mentioning it now, and wanted to say I'm actually strongly considering attending. If there's any other commissioners that are interested, and I'll find out more as we get a little closer. But if there's any interest there, please let me know. If there's no other commissioners or only one that's interested, then we don't have a meeting issue. If there's 3 or more, then we may need to deal with it. So.
A little confused there. AMOE meeting on Friday, St. Patty's Day. What is that?
Well, it's actually a gentleman named Jeff Speck, and he's going to be talking about. It's actually AMOE is a little distracting as part of it, but he's talking about sort of walkability and sort of bringing new transportation strategies into suburban areas. So it's actually going to be apparently in DC, where it's going to be taking place. So I'll find out more. I just found out this evening about it, but I did want to mention it as potential as a topic in case some folks are interested.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yes, Felicia, I see your circles on. So yes.
Yeah. Do you know the time for the event?
I don't. I believe it's going to be in the evening though. I'm thinking 5, 6 o'clock, between 5 and 7, but I don't know at this point. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. I mean, I do have interest in attending. Just depends on the time.
Okay. Got it. Put your name down, and we'll find out more about it on the time and all that.
I doubt that I would make it. But I did want to caution you on our social thing on St. Patty's Day, if we got to compete with that crowd.
Well, this would be not this. The St. Patty's Day event would be, at this event. So we would, for these would be commissioners that are interested in joining this event. And I would, and again, if there's 3 or more, and I'll ask the question anyway and start trying to figure out if there's going to be any issues there. I wouldn't think so. I think there's got to be a way to make it okay, but we want to make sure we understand what needs to take place.
Okay. And I think you briefly mentioned the park development, which is, that's fine with me. I think it does, that tends to be one of the high-end places, I believe, in Mosaic.
I wouldn't suggest we could, we're not getting together for dinner per se. There are less expensive places to have dinner, but they have a happy hour from 5 to 7.
Okay.
And the idea would be come to the happy hour, and whoever's left standing at the end, if there's interest in dinner, find a place. There are places.
Okay.
Yeah. Including staying if folks were of a mind to do so.
Good. Yeah. Well, keep an eye on the Mosaic. There's always new restaurants opening. The Rose Previtz, Maidan, and Compass Rose. She's opened a place. I can't think of the name of it now in Mosaic, but just, new restaurants are popping up there all the time. So
sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Well, that's what I had for the chairman's activities, as it were. What I'll do now is go through our commissioners there and see if there's any more comments we'd like to make as we near adjournment. So starting first with Kevin, anything you want to add, sir?
No, it's an excellent meeting, and I won't comment anymore on Braddock Road project. Very, very interesting project. Also, just a question, right now, as of now, we're not having a social meeting prior to our March regular board meeting, right?
No, because we'll be meeting in the government center, and the meeting starts at 7:30. So I'll be hard pressed to get there by 7:30. Now going forward, maybe we could try and do something, but not planning on meeting beforehand, before this next meeting.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add there is if you add it, if somehow we had a record brief meeting, we've done this before. Fairfax Corner is right there. Conceivably could get there before it closed, but I'm just throwing that out there.
That's true. That is true.
Mike,
the social director.
The location reminded me. It sounds like you said we're meeting at the government center and not the Department of Transportation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where we met last time.
You're right. It's going to be at FCDOT. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. You stand corrected. I have no other comments.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay. All right. Next, Franconia District, Commissioner Bichak. Anything to add, sir?
Yeah, so this is just for general updates.
Sure. Anything you'd like to raise to the commission?
Sure, yeah. There's been some, I guess, disappointment in my district recently about how VDOT is responding to traffic safety requests, requests for improvements for pedestrians, cyclists, things of that nature. In November, on November 17, actually, we had a student riding to a local elementary school, and he was struck by a vehicle. And this occurred on a residential street. This is a sort of a single family home neighborhood that was only, it's just basically a couple blocks away from the elementary school where the student was struck. The supervisor here, Supervisor Lusk, immediately wrote to VDOT and requested an extra stop sign to be added to the intersection there. Again, residential neighborhood. That request was turned down. The appeal was turned down as well. And, we've just had some sort of similar interactions with VDOT where, very easy pedestrian improvements are immediately turned down. And it just seems like VDOT is very sort of car protective, automobile traffic protective, but doesn't really give much thought to protecting pedestrians. And there's just a lot of frustration in my district when it comes to that. So I think that'll be something that I want to work on, and it would be great if the group worked on that as well. That's just what I'm hearing from people around me right now.
Okay.
If I could suggest, hopefully not cutting the chair off, but pedestrian safety is at the top of, I think, the Board of Supervisors agenda. I mean, they're horrified with the number of pedestrian incidents. And I personally have had an encounter with a car last year, so I sympathize with you. So here's what I would suggest is, one, I would ask how much support did the supervisor get from FCDOT? And then two, if that's an area that of interest to you, I would ask if Calvin could tell us who replaced Chris Wells, because he used to be, he was the pedestrian guy that I knew for years. And I would get in touch with whoever that person is, and as you develop, some expertise in that area.
I think it's either Lauren Delma or Nicole Wyans. I either one of them. I forgot which one, but I think it might be Lauren. And I can give Matt the information that yeah, you can contact Lauren and see if anything that she can help you with. Yeah.
That would be great. I'm meeting with someone in the supervisor's office, I think next week. So I would appreciate that contact info. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Matt, really appreciate you raising this. And Kevin, the suggestion you made, it absolutely makes sense. But I thought you were actually making another suggestion, which I will now make. And that is, Matt, I'd also encourage you to reach out to Christy Garden. Reason is there is another opening for a co-lead for the commissioners on the Trails and Sidewalks group. One of their topic areas, of course, as we were talking before, was safety. It's also a big area, a big topic area in other areas as well. But that might be an opportunity to get involved in that issue as well.
No, great. I know that I'm meeting with someone from Trails and Sidewalks. I don't know if it's a separate commission or committee next week as a part of this meeting with the supervisor's office. So yeah, that sounds good. Okay.
Would urge you
Just
please
to add on.
Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to add on to that, I think I can't remember the last time we had Lauren on. I know that we have I think $10 million towards the short-term sidewalk projects, and then another $100 million. And so that might be an area for her to come in. I think maybe the last time was when we actually were in person, but I could be wrong. But maybe there's an opportunity there to get an update on where the county is with those projects.
Excellent idea. Excellent idea. The kind of thing we ought to be looking at.
Or back up for next month if at Route 7 you have a problem with it.
So, Yeah, the more avenues we've got, the more options we've got, the more flexibility we have. So, Matt, no, again, do appreciate you raising this. And absolutely, let's keep us posted how things are going here, and let's find a way to amplify your efforts.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Okay. Hunter Bill, Commissioner Woods, Felicia.
Yeah, so the other week, Supervisor Alcorn held a meeting for all all commissioners who serve on boards in his district. And I got a chance to just talk to him briefly about the Transportation Committee. And he's just really excited about the work that we do and wants to continue to partner with TAC when it comes to learning more about AMOEs and other alternative ways of transportation. So just know that he said some great things about the committee and is eager to continue working with us.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. So glad you got a chance to chat with him, and that that they have such nice things to say. And absolutely, we will do that. We'll continue to do that. So, all right. Okay. Fantastic. Anything else, Felicia?
No, I don't have any more to add.
Okay, appreciate it. Well, that's a good one. You can rest on your laurels with that one. Mason District, Commissioner Hoskin, Roger, anything to add?
I would like to be a spear carrier in Matt's effort, because it's an issue here too. It comes down to sidewalks and crosswalks. There's been some feedback from the immigrant community of who are more likely to use bicycles and walking and standing at bus stops, and it's really pretty bad along Route 7 and some other places. And I think we're going to have to make a joyful noise on the VDOT to get anything done, because sidewalks, bus stops, crosswalks, that's there.
Well,
enough of us make a joyful noise, maybe they'll hear us.
Well, actually, don't want to get into detailed planning, but you are one of the two commissioners left as lead for the transit-oriented development, making place and things like that, road design parameters, which safety is clearly part of it. And
it's a big part of it.
Big part of it. So one of the things we've made as one of our guiding principles, applying holistic approach to addressing issues to maximum extent practical, recognize complexity of issues differs between districts, inform and integrate transportation improvements. So, we need a companion piece to the sort of trails and sidewalks piece of safety. So I encourage you to do that.
Urban crosswalks and sidewalks. I mean, it's complaints even in my neighborhood. Somebody say, why the dickens, if you go through here, you see that we have sidewalks in part of my neighborhood and in some neighborhoods and then not in others. And they say, why is this? It doesn't make any sense. And I said, well, once upon a time, many, many years ago, the sidewalks were put in if the development locations within, and I don't know what the number is, many thousand feet of a school. Because the assumption was that in 1954, the kids would walk to school within a certain distance. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you reach that limit, you see the sidewalk ends. Mm-hmm. And they said, why did we? I said, that's why it was done. And I don't know what the rules were or how they've changed, but we do have sidewalks in part of my neighborhood, and the neighborhood next over us, it's all sidewalk. Well, it's about 3 blocks from Justice High School. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why.
Okay.
And if you go back to 1954, nobody wanted sidewalks. Yep. We were living in the bucolic countryside, and we were all going to drive our cars. And now you can't. Now you have to walk in the street, which no, you don't want to do that, or ride your bicycle in the street.
Sounds good. Absolutely. Well, Roger, appreciate it very much, and encourage your continued participation there. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
And-
if you get that on the agenda, future agenda, pedestrian safety, would you please invite FCPD to talk about enforcement challenges?
Yes, but this is something where I would like commissioners focused on areas to help us put that together. I can't put together every agenda. Can't do it. So, but point taken.
Well,
There's no
there-
question of safety piece of this.
You can work through your supervisor's office because they have a very close liaison with the police station in your district, or police stations in some case. And you can get word back to them that way, and they can get word back to you that way. I don't know if it's been a priority. We can find out. I
Okay.
think they're pretty responsive if they know what's bothering people. At least that's been my experience with at least the Mason District Station. They're very community oriented.
Got it. Okay. No, appreciate that, Roger. Thank you. Next, Providence District, Commissioner Hancock. Jeremy, sir.
Nothing else for me. Thanks.
Getting late. Appreciate it. Springfield District, Eric Thiel.
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Okay. Sully District members not here this evening. Christy Garden, she's not here this evening. So that is all of the commissioners' comments there. Calvin, as I said, hang on for a little bit afterwards, but I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. So motion to adjourn. Is it seconded? Nobody wants.
Second.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll give that one to Jeremy. I saw your circle go. So there's a motion to adjourn and seconded. So all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, we are adjourned at 9:58 p.m. 9:59 p.m. on Tuesday evening. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. Look forward to seeing folks in person next month.
Thank you.
Good night, all. Good night, Calvin.